How do we 5 times our ores in electrodynamics? Well, you're going to need a few things. You will need access to 480 voltage, mainly just for 2 items, the chemical reactor and the mineral washer. So this is a complete setup of 5 times ore processing. It's not actually that complex, as you can see. If you're used to mechanism, electrodynamics is actually a lot simpler. I am using creative power source, and I'm only doing it at 120 voltage, and I'm using transformers to go up to 240 and 480. Whether you have your grid set up like this, yours may be even more efficient. So, step 1, you're going to want to have water. And I'm using an electric pump from Electrodynamics. That's at 120 voltage. So, electric pump pumping water, and that's at 120 voltage. Step 2 is to put that water into a chemical mixer with sulfur trioxide. Now, if you don't know how to get sulfur trioxide, it's in a chemical furnace with sulfur dioxide and vanadium oxide, which sounds complex. It's not really. In another chemical furnace, you're just putting vanadium dust and charcoal, and vanadium is pretty much mined up at the impure level in a crusher from deep vanadinite ore. The other bit you need for it is sulfur dioxide, which is sulfur and coal in a chemical furnace. Sulfur, again, being mined out straight from the ground. So, sounds simple, sounds complex even. It's really not, if you're at this level. So in your chemical mixer, put your water in with your sulfur trioxide, and that will make you sulfuric acid. Now, the sulfuric acid bit with the chemical mixer is at 240 volts. What I've done here is yellow is 120, blue is where I've got my 240 voltage, and red is my 480 voltage. So we've got our sulfuric acid. What is step 3? Put that sulfuric acid into a mineral washer. And as you can see, that is where we put in the iron ore. By the way, if this is helpful for you, please do check out the Patreon in the link in the description. Really helps support the channel if you would like to. And I actually have servers that you can play on as a Patreon supporter, should you wish to. So step 3, sulfuric acid, washing your iron ore with it in a mineral washer. And that outputs iron sulfate solution. Step 4, put the iron sulfate solution into a chemical reactor. So if you're not used to using one of these, which you may not be at this point, green is input for gas, orange is output for gas, and then blue is input for liquid, yellow is output for liquid. And there's 2 of each, so you're basically putting your liquids in and out at the top, and then you power it through the top. What we're putting in here is going to be, I'm actually going to break this and do another one. Sorry, we're just having some issues with some crashes there. I wanted to place a fresh one so I could show you, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to because it keeps crashing. So as I said, blue... what's happened here? No idea. This has gotten all a bit confused. But basically, when you get your iron sulfate solution, I'm just going to show you on AI. You put it in the chemical reactor with water, and that will output pure iron solution and sulfuric acid. So 1 iron ore equals a whole bucket of iron sulfate solution, right? Meaning that a whole bucket is 1,000, 200 millibuckets make 200 here. 200 equals 1 iron crystal. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, or 1,000 equals 5. You are now 5 times in your ores. So you put in through the blue slots the water, power it from the top, as you can see here, and then put in the iron sulfate solution in the top slot as well. In here, it's a liquid, remember, and it will just automatically go in. And then what's going to happen is that you will get some sulfuric acid left over, and you'll see that you have to press this arrow to the second tank to see it. So if you're stuck like this, and you're like, well, I've got loads of iron sulfate, why is it not going in? That's because you're actually full on your sulfuric acid tank. So I would show you properly, but again, it keeps crashing. When you make iron sulfate with water in your chemical reactor, your pure iron solution will also make some sulfuric acid. Output the pure iron into a chemical crystallizer. So again, pure iron solution. You put it into the chemical crystallizer and it makes an iron crystal. Pump that into your mineral crusher. and it will make it impure iron dust. Impure in a mineral grinder makes iron dust, and then you just smelt it up however which way you like. I would recommend an arc furnace as that's quickest. You could, of course, use tier 3 or 480 voltage machines here, but I just wanted to use 240 because it made more sense. So just to go over it again, what we're doing here, pumping water into a chemical mixer with sulfur trioxide, and that will make you your sulfuric acid. You then are going to want to use a transformer if you're doing it like I am, because this is a 240 voltage. And then you're going to want another transformer going up to 480, and that's where you input the sulfuric acid with iron ore to make iron sulfate solution. The iron sulfate solution goes into a chemical reactor at the top in the blue slot, which inputs it as a liquid. And you also put water in, so you'll notice that my water from the pump is also coming up into the chemical reactor. This will make sulfuric acid as a byproduct, which you can make a feedback loop of, or discard the extra that you don't need. Then with the raw or the pure iron solution, put it into a chemical crystallizer, and that's where it becomes a bit of a production line. And you're basically just going chemical crystallizer into a chemical mineral crusher, into a mineral grinder, and then smelt it. So crystallizer, crusher, grinder, furnace. And there you go. You have 5 times your iron ores. Or all ores. Could be any ores you like. Doesn't have to be iron, of course.